Today we're looking at a camera from not all that long ago, relative to the cameras we've looked at before. This is a bit of a familiar face, the Canon EOS Rebel XS in America as it was released. We've talked about before. The last time we were talking about the EOS Rebel S2, which was about a year earlier than this one. This one came out in September of 1993 and in America was released as the naming here. In Japan, it was released as the EOS Kiss. In Europe, it was the EOS 500. When it released, it was 89,000 yen, but it came with a lens. So for just the body itself, it was 59,000 yen, which gets a little funky. An inflation calculator it was 67,000 yen, which today is equal to about $418, which is in line with about the price I paid for my first camera, but mine was a Canon DSLR. This one would just be an SLR, as we're still talking about film. Canon made a bunch of cameras, as it turns out, so I really didn't find too much about this one specifically. It was a version upgrade to the one we've talked about before, assume. It took a different battery. I found that out. There actually was film in this when I got it. I'd like to get that developed at some point to see the history of who had this camera before or just kind of learn about it. But I don't have a battery for this. I don't have a way to develop film at this point in time. And that's a future video. We're going to do it probably in the future. I've been deciding as I've been looking over this. 2 months later, after this came out, they would release the Rebel X in America only, no S. It would not have the built-in flash, the auto date back, and metered manual. Some of those I'm not sure what that means. But the flash, if it's stuck, nope, flash pops up. Pretty similar to what we've seen before, pop-up flash. The built-in flash is controlled with TTL auto flash metering, which is through the lens. So it would meter through the lens, which gives it a more accurate depiction of what is actually going to be in the scene, as opposed to other cameras that came before that did not have that kind of technology. We've talked about that previously too. I found other features that included one-shot autofocus, AI servo autofocus, shutter speed priority, aperture priority. It's pretty standard by this point. What I would get used to on a camera later in life is what we have here. This is fairly modern compared to the technological advances that we would have by the time I got my first camera. Now, I did find that this technically is the world's smallest autofocus SLR body at the time when it released in 1993. Now I'm reading almost directly off the Wikipedia here. With the pre-wind system, the entire roll is first wound onto the take-up spool. Then each time a picture is taken, the exposed frame rewinds into the cartridge. With its easy operation and friendly name of Kiss, the camera became a major hit among young mothers and family snap shooters. It maintained top market share for an extended period. But that's kind of it. There really wasn't all that much to research into. Canon made so many camera models with small generational upgrades over and over that really the only ones that are still talked about 30 years later and the ones that have been professionally researched that I lean on when I'm looking at this stuff, the only ones that float to the topic are big generational leaps and big technological advancements. So really not too much to talk about. I can talk about the lens that it came with. It did come with a lens, thankfully. This is a Canon 28-105. It actually is just a step up from one of the ones that I use for recording these videos right here. So I have another working functional lens and it's already come in handy. I will say it's pretty interesting. I have a significant other who said, I want to take some pictures of horses. I went, sure, go ahead, by all means. I got a camera you can use. You can use my first one. It's still functional well, and it's not super, super expensive. Paid a couple $100 for it. It's not cheap, but it'll do better than the one in your phone. And if you break it or something happens, I haven't given you a multi-$1,000 camera, which would be what a next one up would be that's not currently in use. This is not in use. I used it for years here in the video recording of this process. It came with a kit lens, an 18-55, which is not the most telephoto, but it would work, except it doesn't work. Sometime over the last few years, this broke. It no longer autofocuses. It just kind of makes a whirring noise and nothing actually moves. Don't know what happened to it. I've been using it in manual mode for a really long time now. Something happened, but now I'm stuck going, well, I can give you a camera, I can give you a lens, but I don't want to give you a really expensive lens. And then I tried a different lens and that didn't work. And then I tried a different lens. Apparently I'm currently gathering a collection of broken lenses that no longer work. I don't know if I can take them apart and try to service them. If some parts need repair inside, I don't know. And then I remembered that there was a box of cameras currently being researched that my dad had sent me. And in it was a Canon And on that Canon was a lens. And I bet that lens was an EF, judging by the just general shape. I hadn't done the research on it yet, but yes, had this 28-105. And it even has an ND filter on it. Actually, that's an ND filter I put on there for her since she's going out in the sunlight. This is the filter that it came with. It has seen better days. It's pretty grimy. I don't think any of this is fungus. I think it's just oil on the lens. I think it can be cleaned up. I haven't attempted to do so. I need to get out some cleaning chemicals that are specific so you don't ruin the lens coating on it. Clean it up, but I bet this will work. It is a CPL filter. That's what, circular polarizing lens. It works really well when you're taking pictures of water and you want to be able to see below the surface of it, by a company I've never heard of, QuantaRay. But that's what came on here with the lens. That's really all I have to talk about. We have a Canon. We've got a lens that is already going to be put into use. Really cool. It's not just going to sit on the shelf. It'll get some use before it sits on the shelf. It's good. It's fun. I had a really good time looking it up, even though I couldn't find all that much about it, but I'm glad I got another Canon. I really like the look and shape of Canons. I think I'm just biased because that was the first camera I ever had, was a Canon camera, and it has worked quite well. I use Sony now, but I still have Canon cameras, and they are recording right now. But that is the Canon EOS Rebel XS. A film camera from slightly after I was born, and all the things that I could look up and learn about it, which wasn't that much. But the lens is going to be put into use. The camera's going to sit on a shelf and look pretty cool behind me. Hopefully in the future, I will actually get some film, and a way to develop it myself, I think, would be more fun than just dropping it off somewhere. I don't even know where you can get film developed nowadays. I know you can by sending it off to certain companies, but I want to do it myself. I want to learn and go through that process. It's just going to take a bit of money and actually being able to set up in a dark space to make a dark room. That's for the future. But for now, that is the end of the 4 cameras that I got sent. These last few series of videos that came out. Really cool. Great. Had a fun time researching them. I'm glad that was there. Thank you, Dad. That was a birthday present from him. Fantastic. It was exactly what I could have wanted, is vintage cameras to look at, research a little bit, make a quick little video, and then add to the collection and the growing history as we learn. It's great. It probably goes without saying, but looking at old cameras, growing my collection, and learning is something that I like.